Okay, so we can start?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, we can start. So Josh has sent someone in his place. So hi, Allie. I am Rochelle Conant. I'm with the Public Defender's Office. Maybe we could just go around and introduce for Allie.
I'm Mike Doyen, representing the Kane County Bar Association.
Lark Howard, I'm with the State's Attorney's Office.
I'm Eric Majewski. I'm with St. Charles Police, and I represent the Kane County Chiefs of Police Association.
And
We've
then,
met, Allie. So
oh, sorry, go ahead, Julia.
No, you're fine. Sorry, I was just jumping in. We've met before, but it's nice to see you again.
And we have Zaida Rodriguez. She's just observing from the State's Attorney's Office. So she is with us as well, just so everyone knows we've got some unfamiliar faces on here. Oh, we have someone coming. Is that our?
I feel like it's a mystery.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's Fern. We couldn't tell. It came on his iPhone.
Good, good. Okay. All right. So we will start with the chairman's report. Oh, and shoot, I printed out the wrong information. Sorry, just one moment. Julia, I'm sorry, I didn't even notice this. I don't have numbers. Do you have numbers?
Yep, I have numbers.
Do you
Do you want me to say them or you want me to
Yes,
send them to you?
please.
Okay. So for January, for the financial update for January, we spent $1,041.25 towards personnel and benefits. And then year to date, we've spent $11,292.63.
And so we had talked about this a little bit in January, and I'm going to let Julia talk about it more, but the idea that the commission may be, there may be a 20% funding cut for them. And one of the things that we had kind of talked about was making sure that we were mindfully and purposefully using our money. Well, it appears that we are behind in spending compared to other councils or to other grantees. And so Julia had information from the statewide commission, and Julia, I'm going to let you talk about that, how they are looking at trying to accommodate for this potential 20% cut.
Yeah, so they just at their commission meeting last month, they just kind of provided an update. So they are, Judge Carrianis is going to come. They are still spending money from 2018, 2019, and 2020. They're able to, it sounds like, roll over the funds, although our grant does not allow that for us to be able to roll over funds from previous years. So they're looking at how they can reallocate funds a little bit and get creative there to help with the gaps. They're also looking into some options to get maybe some state level funding. The funding that they're currently using is federal funding. So maybe there's some opportunity with the state. And then they're also putting together an appeal for the non-compliance for fiscal year 22. So they're working on confirming some of the data that came from Chicago Police Department as the non-compliance issue relates back to the separation of sight and sound with youth. And so kind of looking at some of the different intricacies that go with that, the time it takes for some of the protections to be put into place that youth are afforded in the state of Illinois, that they're able to accommodate when that clock starts, that sort of thing. So they're kind of looking into some of those details a little bit further to help inform that appeal process.
Any questions on that? Okay, then on to old business and updates on our fiscal year 2022 priorities. First is youth and parents. And so there's been a little bit going on here. Julia reconnected with Mila Roundy. If we all remember, Mila came and spoke to the board of directors. And in the conversation with Julia, she offered some recommendations as to how we might be able to better connect with youth who are maybe interested in being a part of our council. She told Julia that her experience with us was a very good experience for her, and she found it to be very helpful for her. But she also suggested that we may want to reach out and use some existing opportunities through the schools to connect with youth. And Julia found out that West Aurora High School does some lunch and learns that may be a possibility for us to connect or talk to youth. And so she has reached out to West Aurora, and she has more information on that.
Yep. So I met with them yesterday. Mila is a student at West Aurora as well. She's actually a senior, so we only have a short time left to tap into her expertise. But the school district has these opportunities. They've done some lunch and learn opportunities where they have lunch catered in or brought in by whoever's kind of hosting the lunch and learn. So that would be, if we were interested in pursuing this opportunity and kind of taking Mila's recommendation, that would be something that we would have to kind of talk about, like how would we be able to bring in lunch. It's to cover 4 lunch periods. So there's also just some logistics to navigate with that as far as when it comes in and that sort of thing. But really, it's just an opportunity for kids who are interested to sign up and come to the lunch and learn. And so our thought was maybe we'd work with Mila to put together kind of an agenda for the lunch and learn if we were to host one, but really use it as an opportunity to get connected with some of the youth at West Aurora and see what ideas they have for youth involvement with the Juvenile Justice Council, talk about what the Juvenile Justice Council is. One of the things Mila felt like was that our presence isn't really known in the community among youth. And so this would be just one of those ways that we could kind of outreach to them and have a conversation with them. So when I talked with West Aurora yesterday, they're open. They said end of March, early April would be ideal. And the lunch periods go from like 10:23, I think is the start time, to like 1:11 is like the last start time. So it's like a 3-hour window of time. So the lunch periods run about 45 to 50 minutes, it sounds like, or just under an hour that we'd have time to talk with the kids. Again, we'd be providing the lunch. And they did say, and again, depending on what sort of agenda we wanted to put together, who would want to attend those or be a part of those, we could certainly discuss those logistics. So just, there's an opportunity out there if the board is interested in pursuing it, again, based on Mila's feedback.
Any questions on that? Do we think it's a good thing, something that we should try to pursue? I'm seeing some kind of.
I think it's a good idea. I guess I would want, and I don't mind participating on behalf of the Juvenile Justice Council, but I guess I would want the West Aurora liaison there. That way, somebody, just more meet and greet, somebody that they would maybe deal with on a normal basis. And not that, we're doing anything different, but, I would represent the Juvenile Justice Council, and then the West Aurora is kind of more the boots on the ground who can deal with, you know what I mean? I just think that's a good opportunity for them to meet with us, network with them. What do you guys think about that?
I think that makes sense, because that may put them a little bit more at ease to someone they know.
And I know I came in late. I'm sorry about that to everyone. But so would this be open up to all of the students, or is it's going to be a smaller group, Julia? Or
Yeah, no, so it's opened up. I think it's opened up to all of the students, but they cap it at like 25 students per lunch period. So trying to make it a little bit more manageable. Sorry, I did forget that detail. So it's just first come, first serve.
Okay. All right. I don't think it's ever a bad idea to connect with students. So I'd be in support of that.
Okay. So maybe Julia, you and I can talk about getting an agenda from Mila, suggestions from her, and then we can talk some more with the board.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Okay, so then also if, for those of us who were there at our meeting in January with the commission, there was some talk there that they may have potential youth that may be interested, but we have still not received any further information about that from them. And then Julia put together a flyer to share at the Youth Voices Forum discussing mental health. And that flyer also is to solicit anybody who may be youth who may be interested in participating with the group. And she also, there's been some interest from Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice in connecting with youth who are Kane County residents. So we're looking into that as well. And then Julia is going to be attending the parent council meeting in April to share about the Juvenile Justice Council and what we do. And then we had been talking because we did not provide funds, but we were sponsoring a parent equity workshop through West Aurora. And that was to be a 2-part workshop. I did attend the first one. And then we were waiting to hear information as to when they were going to do the second one. Based upon feedback that they had received from the first one, feedback and low parent turnout, they ended up turning the second one into, it was professional development sessions with educators. So we just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that since we had agreed to sponsor. So it ended up not being a 2-part series for parents, but just the 1 part. And then the second part was for educators. Any questions on any of that? Okay. So we're still no interest in juvenile justice jeopardy and no new updates from restorative practices. And we're still working on revising the expungements packet to make it a little bit more easy, reader friendly. And so then we can move on to our fiscal year 2023 priorities. First is our Juvenile Justice Council restructure work group. We have a meeting set for February 22nd. At the last meeting, it was proposed developing a plan for a county-wide protocol for station adjustments so that we could promote alignment amongst the departments. So this will be the focus of the next meeting and probably upcoming meetings past that. Any questions?
Nope, I was just going to say we were hoping to get, I think, feedback from the board before kind of pursuing that as a restructure work group, what that would look like.
Any feedback, comments, suggestions?
So I'm part of the restructure work group, and I think it was a great idea. I think it kind of gave us a little bit of hope that there's something specific that we can kind of like turn our attention toward if the board was in support of that. And I think that some consistency across the county makes some sense in relation to that, which is why we kind of, I can't remember who it was. One of the police departments, I think, maybe suggested it, and it seemed to make really good sense to me. So I'm wholly in support of pursuing that, at least further to develop that a little bit more at a minimum.
Does anybody have opposition to that? I guess I'll start with that. All right, so that will be our focus for that work group. If anybody, you think about it more and have any comments or feedback or anything, please reach out to Julia. Okay, and then moving on to our, this is our voting item. So the JJC symposium speakers, Julia sent out information on that earlier this week. So hopefully everyone received that, had an opportunity to take a look at it. if I could, so we could move to, for voting on it, if I could have a motion, for vote and discussion.
I'll make a motion to discuss. I'd like to, I don't know as much about what typically costs are for these speakers. It seems high to me, but I'll make a motion to discuss it.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Julia, do you want?
Sessions 1 and 4 are a good price.
Yeah.
2 and 3,
Great
probably need
price.
to discuss.
Yes, that's exactly my thought. And I don't know this speaker. I don't know if anybody's seen her and it seems really high. And it seems to me if we book one, if we would probably have to book them both. If one's not well attended, we're committed to 2. If we are, and that ends up not being well attended, that's a lot of money on the table for essentially a 2-part session when, especially if we don't know how well it's going to go for session 1. So I don't know, but I don't pay for these things. I'm not usually involved in the budgeting and figuring out costs. So I guess I'm kind of just going to rely on other people to give me information about that.
So I'll let Julia talk, but a couple of things. One, and I don't know if this helps or not, but Julia is going to look into getting professional development credits for the sessions. And that would be part of our advertisement for it as well. So hopefully would get a draw, if not, hopefully just based upon the topics, but if not, always professional development credits tend to bring more of a turnout. So we are going to be looking into that. And then Julia, I don't know, we had discussed, and I don't know what we had paid previously for any speakers.
I can tell you that restorative practices, when we do it's a 5-day training. When they were doing it virtually, it was around 10 grand for that one for folks to go through the training of trainers. I think too, what we're seeing, I don't want to speculate, but she's an independent consultant as compared to the other 2 come from more public institutions. So I don't know if that's some of the discrepancy in what we're seeing in cost as well. I have seen her, actually the Illinois Collaboration on Youth last summer brought her in. I don't know what they paid for her to come in, but she just did a 1 session with them, but I think it was a little bit longer of a session. So it was like 3 hours. So I don't have a figure of what she did for them, but yeah, as far as past speakers that we've had, I want to say some of them I could look like, I meant to look beforehand, so I'm sorry I don't have this readily available. I can look to give you a number while you all are discussing. But I think some of them have been in the couple grand region.
Julia, based on what you saw in 3 hours and the description of what is on the agenda, was that the same discussion, or was it something different? Or, I mean, I know she kind of has the same consulting, but did you see in 3 hours what we're going to see in 2 basically, or?
So
Actually?
yeah, I think she's trying to, I imagine that's going to be a condensed form of what I saw, and then she's trying to tailor it to what we've been discussing as a council, like in the second part. But what I feel like in my personal experience and like for professional reasons, like I've attended a lot of cultural competency, cultural humility courses, racial equity and bias courses, and I really appreciated how practical her approach was. So for whatever that's worth, I felt like I walked away like reflecting about, some of the things that she was saying. So it's helpful for me.
The first session wouldn't really be geared towards juvenile, right? That would be what would be picked up in the second session.
The first session, yeah, is more so that self-reflection process, like kind of learning the skill and thinking about, how your own kind of experiences shape then, what happens. And then the second one would be more application to, okay, how does this now play into the conversations that we're having? So it's linking the two.
What would be the time frame to cancel if, because what I'm thinking is if you could get people to commit and register by a certain date and get at least over 50 or 60 people, then that would make it worthwhile. But let's say you didn't get registrations, would there be a time frame where you could cancel without having to pay?
I would have to ask her. We're asking her to set aside her time and put together a presentation. So the 2 dates that she proposed were mid-April. So I don't know what her preference would be.
Does this entail her physically coming out here? Or would?
No. These are all going to be virtual.
Well, that's what I was thinking. The first one, doesn't seem like, the first one seems like it would be replicative of her general presentation to any group and not specific to us. So, but I mean, I don't know, if she does do a separate preparation for every presentation, I don't know.
That was, I think, something that she factored into the cost when her and I talked, was how much of this was going to be her having to recreate or create a new presentation versus build on what she had previously. So I think, to your point, the first session at least is going to be a little bit building on what she's had previously from the description of it. And then it sounds like the second one might be a little bit more specific to us. So she is the one that we shared that data with, that the board had voted to share the data with.
Any other questions about it, comments?
Do we have a plan in place already as to how to get the word out? How we're going to disseminate the information? Because I mean, my concern is it'll be a great program that 12 people will watch. I mean, even a lot of times you have people register and they still won't end up showing up for it because something will come up or whatever. I mean, I would think you'd have to at least have over 50 people registered to make it worthwhile.
I kind of agree with Mike. I mean, if we can flesh out whether we can get the professional development credit, that, and then kind of put it out there for people to tell us whether they would sign up for this and or actually have to sign up for it before we have to commit to those costs. I think that makes a lot of sense. And the credit, I think, would certainly be incentive for people to sign up. But again, you're a little out of my wheelhouse.
Julia, what is our, what is our timeline, I guess, to lock her in? I mean, like, did she have, like, I need to know by such and such a date whether I'm doing this?
No, no, she didn't have she hasn't had time. I mean, I've kind of left her on hold for about a month now because I was waiting for the first set of speakers to confirm. But I think our time is really ticking. We got to do this before the end of June. Also for reference, sorry, I'm going to take it back to the cost thing. When we brought Wake Up Call in, which was an hour-and-a-half presentation for parents, it was $37.50. So if that's any context as to speaker fees, that was one reference I can give. Let me see if I can find Dr.
Do you recall how many people we had participate for that presentation?
They were hit or miss. Some of them were more well attended than others, depending on which location. So like West Aurora had maybe like 20 to 25 parents at one. I think Geneva's was really well attended. Burlington Central's was relatively well attended. It was like 40 to 50, if I remember. This is really testing my memory, but it was hit or miss.
And was that per session or per presentation, $37.50 for all of them?
I would have, I can't, I believe that was per session, because I think we shared with the school district cost. I would have to double check. I think the total cost though per was $37.50 for each one. I mean,
And when you're saying that, you mean $3,750?
yeah,
What the
yeah, sorry.
council contribution per session was.
That I don't remember. I would have to
Okay.
dig more on that one.
Okay, so it appears that we're kind of on a timeline. Maybe, so maybe hold off on, let me suggest this. If we could hold off on the vote for maybe a week or two, Julia, could we look into whether or not we actually could get professional development credits?
Yeah, I think as long as the board's okay with me pushing that, I think my hesitation was I don't even have approval for these sessions. So it was a little hard to figure out, to really solidify some things without having even that approval.
So I don't know. I feel like I'm talking a lot about something I don't know, but to me, if session number 1 is more geared to general information, which sounds like wonderful, actually, general information. But it's something that she presents more regularly, and this is not going to be that tailored just to us. I'm not understanding why her cost would be essentially the same as it is for session number 2, which is more specifically tailored to us and using the data that we've permitted her to look at. And again, if it's not out of the norm of the cost and we can get people to attend, I think it's worth it. But I'd want a little bit more information from her about why why these costs. Is she willing to negotiate with us at all? Can we get the professional development credit? Do we have an opportunity if we don't get enough people signed up to say to her, no, we're canceling, and not have at least some large expense that we're looking at? Those are all things that I would like to see if maybe we could have her respond to before we make a final decision.
Okay, Julia, do you think that we could get those questions answered and we could put it to an email vote?
Yeah, I can reach back out to her and see if she can clarify some of the costs a little bit further.
Okay,
Thank you.
so if there are no objections, then maybe we will table this for a potential email vote within the next week or two. Everyone okay with that?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then we will move on to the our JJC RED team. The team met in January. Julia is confirming the 2 data points where Kane County had disparities that fell in the top 5 of those jurisdictions compared. And then Lisa and Latanya are looking at recent referral data to determine if there are trends that may inform more concrete steps. And then Eric is going to bring the topic to the JOA to discuss referrals to court services. And then their next meeting is February 22nd. I don't know if Eric or Julia has any more on that.
Oh, we're all set to go on that.
All right. The next is the IRJEC statewide committee. They met on January 25th and will not reconvene until March. They have started the TTA process with Lake and Madison counties. This is informing the structure that will be used with other jurisdictions once they are able to expand the TTA. Any questions on that? And then the adolescent domestic battery work group met on January 10th. And Julia is working to coordinate a meeting between the work group and Representative Matt Hansen. Because if you recall, part of what we are looking at is statutory fixes, changing some language in the statute. And so we are looking to get someone who would be on board with that with us and would be willing to create legislation and go forward with that. So our next meeting for that is to be determined once we can set something up with Representative Hansen. Any questions on that? Okay, and then the fiscal year 2024 grant, Julia is going to begin working on that. And so we just wanted to put to the board if there are any priorities that anyone thinks that we should be focusing on. Okay. Nothing? All right, any questions about any or comments about anything else? Okay, so we will work on getting information in regards to the speakers and send out an email vote. As Julie indicated, you know, we're pressed for time here, so hopefully that will be coming soon. So if everyone can respond as quickly as possible on that. And that is all that we have for today. Our next quarterly meeting will be April 13th, and then the next Board of Directors meeting is March 9th. And then if we have nothing else, if we could have a motion to adjourn.
Did we ever approve the minutes or no?
Oh, you know what?
No.
Thank you. We did not, because I was worried about a
We
quorum.
we didn't have a quorum to start.
Yeah. Yes, so let's go back. Did anyone have any corrections or changes to the minutes from February? Okay. Then those will be approved as submitted. All right. And then if we could have a motion to adjourn
A motion.
and a second.
Second.
All right, then we are done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.